Hey guys, it's Hannah and welcome back to the Dyslexic Reader. Today I'm going to tell you about something very exciting that I done last week and I'm very proud of myself. I finished the whole trilogy, if that's how you want to look at it, of The Lord of the Rings. Now, I think I should go into my history a bit with the series before I kind of review / discuss my experience. So, I have read The Hobbit about 8 times. I don't know how many times I read this book as a child, and it's one of the books that I would say got me into reading. If you let me lean back for a second and see if I can get down to my graphic novel section. Here we go. I have the graphic novel version of The Hobbit, and my dad, like myself, is also dyslexic and he finds it incredibly hard to read and even harder to read out loud. So as a kid he would tell me stories from his head rather than read me stories at bedtime or whatever, but this is one of the books I remember very vividly. Obviously it's mostly just text, so there's not as much grammar and stuff in it, and I remember him very vividly going through this with me at night time and reading a couple of pages and getting the story of a hobbit as a young child, and then I progressed on to the book. And as I guess like then a teenager loving The Hobbit so much, I tried to give, where's the first one? Fellowship of the Ring trial, but I could never get into it. I never got past about chapter 3. I found the writing a lot different than The Hobbit. I know The Hobbit is a children's book, I guess technically, and The Lord of the Rings is not. I found the language and the writing style extremely difficult. Obviously due to my dyslexia it makes things, especially fantasy, a lot harder because of the names of places and things. Not being able really to read them just completely confuses it. So I just put this series as not for me. However, I have seen the movies many times. I haven't seen them in a good number of years, but I had seen the movie and was familiar with the stories, and I did enjoy the movies. But last week I was talking with it about Lord of the Rings to my dad, and he actually said that during like the 80s he did manage to read the whole trilogy. Now it took him a couple of years to get through it. As I said, he's very dyslexic as well, but it was something that he was really proud of, that he had actually read The Lord of the Rings and had really enjoyed them, which really motivated me because I had these sitting on my shelves and I'd give them a go. But when I was a teenager, I decided to give them another go. So last week I picked up The Fellowship of the Ring and I finished the whole series in just over a week, which, as you can imagine, was a forfeit. I had the week off. It was like Easter break, so that's why I got so much done. But I really enjoy these and I thought it was quite a unique experience, and that's why I wanted to sort of tell you about my experience and kind of review the books at the same time. So I started with The Fellowship of the Ring, which is obviously the first one, and I really got into the atmosphere of it. Now, I'm not going to say that these books are fabulously written, because in my opinion that they are not the best written books out there, any of them. But the atmosphere of the writing is quite distinctive. The feel of the world was something quite new to me. I've been on a real fantasy, like adult fantasy kick at the minute. So I felt that I was mentally prepared going in. You know, I've really been building myself up and trying to expand my sort of fantasy readings and try to overcome like the difficulties I have with it. So I found it very atmospheric and I just took my time, and I feel like having watched the movies, it helped me knowing the names of the places and the people of what overlap. There's an airplane going by, sorry if you can hear that. But I felt that that helped the reading experience a lot more. I felt more relaxed and less intimidated by the books, and I really enjoyed the first one. I thought it kept very close to the movie. There was a couple of bits in it that weren't in the movie. Obviously the whole movie cannot cover all 600 and whatever pages, but I thought it was quite close to the movie, and the only real difference was I like Frodo in the books a lot more than I liked Frodo as a character in the movies. And I gave this a 4 out of 5 star in Goodreads, but it would be more probably like a 4.5. I really enjoyed it. It just wasn't perfect for me. Then I picked up The Two Towers, which is, I believe, the shortest of the three, and this was my least favourite. I still give it a 4 stars, just about, but I really think that was going off kind of feeling, as I said, I was really in the mood, I was in the atmosphere, I had just come off the back of the first one, and I really was enjoying the characters and the story. My problem for this one is, like, too much nearly happens, and yet at the same time, not enough. It's sort of just everybody getting in the right place so that the third book has a good place to start on, but there was a lot of, like, things in this that just are not what I enjoy, like fights and things. I just don't enjoy reading kind of like action scenes, although I do like a lot of plot driven things. I'm kind of all over the place with what I like, but this was my least favourite. I still really enjoyed it. I thought it was a bit like, the writing was very hard at times. This one I actually partly listened to the audiobook for it because I was finding like Bjorn, the third son of Erithep of the fourth era of all that kind of stuff. And that was very, very heavy in this book. Although I think a lot of the actions that happen really show our characters for who they are. And as I said, set up the third book really nicely. Again, from what I can remember, pretty close to the movie. The third one was when it all kicked off. I loved this book. This was by far my favourite out of the three. It'll never rival The Hobbit for me because of nostalgic, kind of emotional reasons, but this was a 5 out of 5 star read. I loved this. I felt like everything that happened was so meaningful and set out. The ending tied together, and this does not really follow the movie at all. I'm not going to really say why because I don't want to ruin it for everyone, but like basically the movie ends at like there in this book, and then there's a whole other chunk about the aftermath of the ending of how the movies leave it. And that was my absolute favourite part of the series, going back to the Shire, seeing what has happened and how the kind of community gets over it and how personally they get over the things that have happened to them. That was my absolute favourite part of the whole series. I thought it was written beautifully. I didn't see it coming. I thought there was twists and turns, and it was emotional, and it ended really nicely. I thought, yeah, the ending of the book, well, there was a whole chunk more, but just kind of the way it wrapped up was so much neater than the movies were able to do it, because they left so much of the third book out. So although first and second books I think were really condensed, but the majority of the important stuff was packed into the film, I feel like this was not the case in the third book. This was absolutely fantastic. I really grew to love the characters so much more. I think that's where I appreciated the second book and maybe took it up to a 4 star if it was hanging around 3.5, because it was really important to see those developments take place, even though I found them a bit boring and unnecessary at the time for how this all played out, and I really loved it. I am so proud of myself for getting through the 3 of these, and I always felt like these were sitting on my shelf and kind of looking at me. They were beside my Hobbit and they were like, you love me but you don't love us, you don't love us. So now I can say that I have conquered The Lord of the Rings. I am super proud of myself. It has fueled my adult fantasy kick. I am currently reading, if you let me get this, I'm currently reading The Final Empire, which is the first in the Mistborn trilogy. Good bit through that, and I've already the second one on hold in the library. So if you've any other kind of adult fantasy, I don't want too long a series, like a trilogy is long enough. And if it's like not brand new, like if it's a wee bit older, then I can get a hold of it at my library. That would be even better. So if you have any recommendations, leave them down below. If you have or have not read Lord of the Rings, let me know your thoughts on doing so. And that's it for today. I hope you're all happy, I hope you're all healthy, and hopefully I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye.